Hey, Rabanzo here. My guest for this episode is Canadian pop artist Arlene Paculan. She shares insights on how she creates opportunity in music, why she focuses so hard on local fans and supporters first, and overcoming critics and adversity. Let's do this. This is the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. I'm your host, Rabanzo. This podcast features conversations with me and indie music artists. Conversations intended to help other indie musicians be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Arlene and I actually spoke twice to make this interview happen. I had another mishap with recording. I only take solace in having heard bigger podcasters than me screwing up their own recordings. One thing that came from speaking with her twice and having been acquainted with her already is I learned a lot about her this time. She's doing amazing things in her local arts community, and she's so passionate about music and art in general, both her own and that of others. Did you know that this podcast and all things Unstarving Musician are made possible by the support of listeners, people just like you? If you'd like to become a supporter of this podcast and the Unstarving Musician Project, if you'd like to learn how it works, what it means to support the podcast, please go to unstarvingmusician.com/crowd support. Offering your support doesn't mean you have to spend money. There are financial options for supporting, but also options that cost you $0. Regardless of which option you choose, or even if you'd rather not offer support beyond your listening time, it's okay. You are important to me just for listening to this episode. Again, if you want to learn how to become a supporter, go to unstarvingmusician.com/crowd support. Arlene has a new single out. She has a TV show, a production company. She wants her music to be heard globally, but at the same time, she's actively building a following one fan at a time. She's talented, interesting, and kind of amazing. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Here is me and Arlene Paculan. I know we've had a tough time getting together, and I feel lucky to be getting together a second time within the course of about 3 days. So thank you for spending time with me again.
My pleasure.
For the benefit of my listeners, please tell them where you live, the name of your town, and what it's like there.
Sure. I live in Mississauga, Ontario, in Canada, which is basically like a half an hour drive from Toronto. So if most people know that where Toronto is in Canada, it's little brother. And the music scene in Mississauga is growing a lot. There's so many different artists. Actually, some artists that came out of Mississauga that you guys might know is a band called Billy Talent. They came from Mississauga, and in the scene here, there's lots of different genres as any city would have. But what they're doing is we're trying to elevate the attention on Mississauga artists there's lots of things happening here. There's lots of music festivals starting out. There's some awards ceremonies starting. A good friend of mine, Demetrius Nath, and Chris Wolf started a organization called Mississauga Music, and their goal is to showcase all kinds of music in the city. And they have started the Mississauga Music Awards. It's their third year this year. I was fortunate to walk away with the Best Pop Mississauga Music Award last September, and they'll be doing another awards ceremony this September. And just it's really cool. Like there's about I hope I don't get this wrong, but there's 700,000 people in our city. It's the sixth largest city in, I believe, in Canada. I apologize if I got that wrong. Or I'm pretty sure it's all in sixth largest city in Canada, not in Ontario. But yeah, and there's just there's so many emerging artists, so many established artists. Like Oscar Peterson lived in Mississauga. which is something that we like to applaud. And then there's a counselor that had passed away recently. His name was Jim Tovey, and he was the music man of a section called Port Credit in Mississauga, and he was such a lovely man. Him and his wife Lee are huge music fans. He actually was a musician and still was, and prior to his political change, like he was the counselor for Ward 1, and he loves music so much that he created the Mississauga Music Walk of Fame, which I'm fortunate to be on the committee for, and like we've awarded a lot of people that have lived in the city, who have come from the city, on this really cool sidewalk of stars.
That's cool.
So
and you are, by the way, pretty darn accurate on your numbers about Mississauga. It's, Wikipedia, anyway, says the most recent census has you at over 700,000, and that it is the sixth most populous municipality in Canada and third most in Ontario, second most in the Greater Ontario area.
Awesome. Okay, that's good. Good that I got my information right, because I hear this all the time, that like I've never actually said it out loud. So
good job. And we talked about this the last time, and I just wanted to bring it up again. I thought it was, I want to say kind of cute. It was neat, but you known for, among other things, the Maryland Towers or Marilyn Monroe Towers. Can you tell just a little bit about that?
Sure. There's in the city center. So there's like a few quote unquote downtowns in Mississauga, and the city center is known as like where one of the biggest malls is in the area. And there's these gorgeous towers that were created called the Marilyn Monroe Towers or Monroe Buildings. But it's the shape of it. If you guys are listening and you Google it, the shape of it is to emulate the curvature of the actress Marilyn Monroe, and it's beautiful, especially when the sunlight hits it. It's like you don't really consider buildings, any kind of buildings, to be like sexy or gorgeous, but like this one that's how I would describe it. They're really nice.
They're pretty cool. Yeah, thanks for mentioning those again. You dropped, congratulations on the Mississauga Music Award that you received.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. We talked about this last time. I guess I'll tie a couple of things back into it, but you are very involved in the art culture scene in Mississauga, and I found it to be very relevant to our conversation because of the exposure and perhaps opportunities are the best words that your involvement has afforded you. And also, I guess worth mentioning again too, we talked just a tiny bit about Benoit Glazer, who I know you've kind of looked at and perhaps got a little bit of inspiration from. Can you talk about your involvement and if you can, maybe just as a side note, your thoughts on Benoit Glazer?
Sure. So the involvement that I have with the city is with a whole bunch of different organizations, and it started off with being a member with the Mississauga Arts Council, and they've created lots of opportunities for other artists, including myself. I've been able to host a number of events with them and for them. I've had the opportunity to open for a Juno nominee, Jill Barber, years ago when I was starting out, and I thought it was the coolest thing. It was like in the beginning of my career, and it was like the most I was ever going to be compensated at the time for a gig, and I was like in awe. I was like playing a 45-minute set, and it was a gig that was given to me in partnership with the Arts Council as well as City of Mississauga. And at the time, because I felt like such a baby, I think I dove into the music scene, and it was about my third year in, and it was like a really good paying gig, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I'm going to sing my songs and I'm getting really highly compensated. And it was really cool. Not only it was like the compensation and, having value for my art, it was also the experience I got to perform. It was for the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. It was three female artists on the bill, myself, Shannon Butcher, and Joe Barber. We all grew up in Mississauga. And it's just cool to see that lineup. So, like, I was still a baby. Shannon Butcher is very well known in the jazz community, and Joe Barber is really well known nationally, probably internationally now as well, all coming from the same city. And just being involved with your community is, I think, highly important. That's something I learned in the beginning. It's like a lot of people go into it and they're like, oh, I want to be so famous, or like, really, that's I think one of the notions that a lot of people have that might be what's the word, like, if you're in the entertainment industry to become famous, like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons ultimately, and in my opinion.
Sure.
But if you want to have your music showcased, the best that I've learned throughout research and just talking to other people is, like, you got to build your fan base, and you have to have a name in your own community first. And my mom taught me that. And, like, my mom's career is a lot different than music, but her idea of, like, you just focus on Mississauga first. And as much as I was like, oh no, but I got to go to Toronto. There's so much in Toronto, like, that's where it is. But she's like, no, just focus on Mississauga first. And so I did. And she was right. 'Cause, like, there's so many things that I was able to do here in the city. Like, it went from doing gigs, being on stage in front of people that are learning about my music, becoming fans, to hosting a few shows on our local TV network. And then I volunteer at my local hospital. And it's really cool because a lot of people come up to me while I'm volunteering at Credit Valley, and it's like, oh, I saw you on TV, or, hey, do you have a TV show on Rogers? They'll, like, ask me, or, oh, I saw you perform at this festival. And it's just organically creating a fan base that way, along with all the other things that are out there on the social media platforms.
Yeah.
But I think it's super important to just get people in your community around you knowing what you're doing, to support you in terms of, like, attending your shows, listening to your music, and then you can, and because I'm, like, I keep saying I'm a baby, it's because this is my 9th year in like, diving into the music industry with my music, my original music, that when I talk to other people about when I started, they're like, oh, you're a baby. Like, a lot of people are in it for, like, 20, 30 years already. And so I'm still learning, and I'm just expressing what I've learned in the beginning stages.
Yeah, that's great. And it's great. I noted when we spoke on Friday that, among these many other things that you've talked about, it has lifted your presence online as well, being so plugged into the arts community. And now I'm learning, about other volunteer type of work that you do, the media, TV things that you've done. So, which for me as a podcaster and someone who wanted to interview you, made it super easy for me to find resources, things about you. And I would venture to say that anytime you're putting yourself out there for some sort of new opportunities, people can clearly see, there's a lot to learn about you very quickly, which says some things about your presence in music, your business acumen, your music acumen. So all good, really good stuff. And I remember suggesting to you that you check out look into a guy named Benoit Glazer.
Oh yeah.
And I know that there's some
I meant
parallel.
to bring that up.
That's all right. There's a little parallel between what you're doing and what he and his wife have done. Would you mind?
Yes.
And Benoit Glazer, for those of you who are listening, he was featured in an earlier episode of The Unstarving Musician. He and his wife have done something remarkable in their community with making arts and music accessible. So yeah, can you talk a little bit about why you were drawn to his story and maybe, what, if any, inspiration you've drawn from that?
Sure. Well, I hadn't heard of Benoit until you suggested to check him out. And as soon as I saw his TED Talk with him and his wife, I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly why you referred me to him. So just based on the community he's built, like literally out of his house, and this music venue that they made, and their love for music and bringing touring musicians on board to pass through, and they basically built opportunities for other artists. And that's something that I'm very passionate about, because when I started doing music, the reason why I started doing music was I used to write in high school, then I took a break to do theater. And then with theater, I was going to audition after audition, spending lots of time in the audition waiting room, going into the audition room for like 5 minutes, leaving, waiting for someone else to depict whether I was going to get the role or not. And then a friend of mine, actually, she booked a venue in Toronto. She charged a small cover at the door to raise money for a project she was working on. And I was like, oh, I just asked her a question, like, oh, how did you do this? She's like, oh, you just rent out the venue or book a venue, and she had all her friends perform. So I was like, oh, that sounds like fun. So I ended up doing that, and I haven't stopped. Like since 2010, I've been putting on events. I recommend trying to find a venue that's open to live music without paying without paying a rental fee in the beginning. And then you basically, like for me, I have a lot of talented friends, and throughout my years, I've met so many other talents where I could produce my own shows. And so, which is why I was so intrigued and inspired by Benoit and his wife, because we're both creating opportunities for people, and we're all having a good time. And so this company on my end started, called Let's Make Good Productions, which is a company I run, an event and promotion company that I run with my best friend, Kat Leonard. And what we do is, our goal is to spread empowerment through art. And it's not only, it started off with music, but then spoken word started to get introduced into the events. And then I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we incorporated all sorts of art. So a good friend of mine, Heather Christine, she worked with the Arts Council before, and she had this idea of putting artwork on stage while people are performing, which is what we do with Let's Make Good Productions. We now invite visual artists who have a lot of art that one of the ways they can show it off is having it in a gallery. But what about those people that don't go to galleries often? So let's put these beautiful paintings in front of people that see live music, that see comedy, that see spoken word, and we put that up. And so when photos are taken, their paintings are in these photos with performers. And so it's kind of like, how can we showcase all different sorts of artwork in a different way? And in the past, we've had events that showcased short film, performance art, dance, and mainly right now we do a monthly event where we showcase music, spoken word or poetry, and visual art. And the events that we created, there's 3 of them. There's Wonder Women, which is just ladies Supermen, which is just men, and then Wonderfest, which is all genders. And it's just like the goal, like I said, it's to spread empowerment through art and creating opportunities for other artists. And I love it because I meet a lot of people that have so much potential. Like, if you ever come to Canada and in Mississauga, I'll definitely, like, I'd love to showcase you here, or like even anybody that comes through. And the environment is just this incredible positive one, and I'm hoping to inspire those people that come to the shows that used to do creative stuff. I like to even, create a beautiful meal for their family, like, or even add, like I said before, like add color to a spreadsheet at work or something. But like the goal is to just to have that creative part come alive again. If it's not,
you must have found it not eerie, but just like exciting when you ran across Benoit and his wife, because they were doing so much of the kind of things that you love doing and are doing. I would love. I just very recently started doing something I procrastinated on for no good reason, but email lists have having people on your email list has become more and more strict in terms of getting permission, and so I was just delaying on the right way to do it. So I have all these people come on the podcast, but I've just started going back to them and saying, "Hey, I'd like to add you to a special list called the guest list." But what I was going to say is, as I build it, I would love to let them know about what you're doing and ask them to reach out to you or to me if they have interest in learning about these events that you're doing where you may be interested in showcasing them.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. I have a feeling there are a handful of them that would be really excited about that opportunity and to connect.
That'd be really cool.
So you've had a lot. This is amazing. I learned a lot more about this aspect of you in this second conversation, even though we touched on it a little bit on Friday. But you have a lot going on right now, including probably some ongoing things that are happening as we speak with Let's Make Good Productions. But you have a new single out called Leave Me Alone from the EP. See, I was going to get it wrong. Home With You. I didn't fix my notes there. Home With You. I read Best Kept Secret on your website, but that is actually just a statement of fact that the EP is one of the best kept secrets in music.
But, thank you.
We are going to feature that track during the episode for those of you that are listening. So stay tuned in. You have a great video for it. You do a lot of things. You alluded to work that you've done on local TV, including, I believe, if I have it right, Striving Artists and The Hive. Can you talk a little bit about those aspects of what you do?
Sure. Striving Artists is my latest project. It's funny because I'm a natural introvert, and with music, and then I believe that it was music that has allowed me to have my voice and to share my creativity, and through that, it's given me opportunities to host different events as well as TV shows. So in the past, I've hosted 3 shows on Rogers TV, and then this is my 4th one, which is now on Filipino TV. It's also available on YouTube. And the goal of this is actually similar to your podcast, and which is why I was drawn to reach out to you and to listen to your podcast, because the title, The Unstarving Musician, and Striving Artist.
Did I say it right, or did I say starving artist?
No, you said it right. You said it right. It is striving artist. You got it. But the term starving artist, I'm sure a lot of people don't like it, and I actually really despise that term, because like artists, we're not starving in the beginning. I think a lot of people see that we are, because like they don't value the art in the beginning, while people are paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars to go see artists. Like Lady Gaga or like J-Lo or Drake or, but like everybody starts from somewhere, and I just don't like that term at all. And like, some artists talk about it on stage saying like, if, we're passing the hat, there's like this idea of like, oh, like help us get some gas money. It's like, no, you need to put more value on your art. And it's not like we want them to pay for our food or our gas. What they're doing is they're paying for our work, our creativity. And I think that I just want to get rid of that notion. So that's the reason why I developed the show Striving Artists. And my network here in the Greater Toronto area is there's so many artists here making a living off of their art, and I want to showcase that. And the show is very like it's a reality show. It's very self-help, inspirational, positive, where we get to learn from our artist entrepreneurs and how they did things. So because everybody's journey is different. And what's really cool about the creative industry is that the journey to success is all creative. And now with so many things available online, a lot of technology available, we can create a lot of opportunities for ourselves. So in the first season, which is available on YouTube, I chat with a lot of musicians because that's my network, but I also interview a tattoo artist, a DJ, a photographer. I interview some visual artists, and it's just to kind of get an idea of what they've gone through, and it's to provide some lessons and tips for the audience to get them to where they want to get closer, like faster.
We are very alike. Then I like I like learning this about the show. Can you tell me what question or questions give you the most insight or the best insight, shareable insight?
Oh, that's a great question. What I like to touch on for each episode is adversity and like how they dealt with it, because I think a lot of people might stop pursuing their dreams because of what one person said, and it makes me so sad. Like, you see somebody who stopped singing because a teacher, when they were young, had said like they shouldn't be singing. Meanwhile, that person probably is just dying to sing, or like has this burning desire to sing. But it was just that one person that affected the way that they think. Sure. Like I want people to learn that, like, and I'm guilty of it. There's things that have happened to me in the past where it was maybe one person that said something to me, and I believe that statement. But what I want more of the audience to gather from these interviews is like, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but the best opinion, the most important one, is the one that we believe and our truth. Like if we embody the truth of other people, then like how are we supposed to live our own lives? And I'm saying, as I'm saying this to you, I'm actually talking to myself, because there's a lot of the things that I tell, and like ideas that I say out loud. It's also it's selfless as well as it's selfish, because it's me saying like, Arlene, you got to do what you preach. Okay. So like, there's a song I wrote called I'm Worth It. And I always introduce the song as, lyrics and thoughts for us to remind ourselves to trust and believe that whatever we, that we can achieve whatever we think possible. So like basically what we think about comes about. And, I want to tour the world with my music, and I know I'm worthy of that. I know, but I have to keep reminding myself that every day, because there's so many negativity coming all sorts, all ways, and it might not be personal, but it might be something online, or like something someone had said in the past that might come up. But it's just I think as creatives, because we're so emotional and driven by our creativity, that our hearts are so open. And I think it's important to be open to everybody's view on what we do, but we have to remember why we're doing it, I think. And like, now that I'm just like speaking all this stuff, I'm like, okay, Arlene, are you doing that? Okay, I'm going to start doing that. I got to start doing that.
Yeah. Hey, I can totally relate. I want to come back to this, but first we're going to take a quick break, if you don't mind. And you're listening to my conversation with Arlene Paculan, and you are about to hear that track from her latest EP, Home With You. The track is called Leave Me Alone.
My drunken eyes heavy, I'm messy and begging myself to forget about you. I'm sad and I'm angry, I'm mad at the reasons my body's still craving for you. Ooh, am I kidding? There's no room for me, no room for me. Get out of my head, get out of my mind. Don't you call me again like you're more than a friend, and talk your way into my life. Don't look at me.
So give me an example of the actual question or a question, maybe there are multiple ones, that, as though you were asking me, let's just put me in the musician chair for a moment,
Okay.
and ask, I want to hear what the question sounds like when you start digging into my adversity. What's a sample question?
Oh, it might be something. It would depend. So, like, for our interview, for my interview with you, it would be something like, when you're starting out into your journey into music, as a drummer, as a musician, podcaster, like, if you'd come across adversity, what was something that helped you overcome it?
That's good.
Are you going to answer it for the audience?
Yeah, let me think about that. I was asking myself inside as I was listening to you, is like, well, why, those times that people have said things to me as perhaps as a musician, or something reflective on a band I was playing with, or reflective on a particular musician I was working with, any of those things that can get us down. Why did I ignore those in the long run? What was going on in my head, I think. And I guess that there's a little bit of personality in there, I suppose. And I don't even consider myself as having a extraordinarily healthy ego, although I guess we have to do things like this, right? But
Yeah.
I guess, I take it in as best I can. I try to talk about it with someone if I can. It depends on the situation, right? But try to talk to them about it to understand what what it is they're really trying to communicate to me. Then I dwell on it, and I might be a little upset about it. But I think when I come back to the art of making music and collaborating with others, I forget all about it, because the excitement that making music gives me, or even if it's just, I wrote the other day that doing anything remotely related to my drum set, for instance, be it setting it up, tuning it, practicing, it really sort of gets me out of my head. It's like a meditation, right? But all those things bring me a lot of joy. especially performing. And so I've always been really easily able to forget about any, be it criticisms or things that were trying to shatter my confidence. So, and I don't know if that actually, answers the question, but that was going through my head. I think it does. Yeah, good.
Because it like the way that you've dealt with it is basically just remembering why you're doing it. And I think a lot of people need that reminder of like, okay, well, why'd you start this in the first place?
Right.
Is it to get approval from those people that have given you those criticisms, or is it because you love it? So I think that answer is like amazing, because it just reminds people like, go back to your happy place. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I'm sure there's a lot of great strategies I love asking post-interview my guests something similar. And I think there are probably a lot of strategies for dealing with these things, and it really depends on who you are as a person. If I know you probably, your show would Striving Artists would be a great place for listeners to learn about different ways that artists deal with different types of adversity. And as you said, you can see it on YouTube nowadays. On the more and more on the blog posts featured for these interviews that we're doing for the Unstarving Musician podcast, there's a section there, a bonus Q&A section there, where you can learn similar things about people like Arlene and other artists who've been on the podcast and took a few minutes to answer these types of questions. So I think it really does help. But I suppose in that regard, I'm a little lucky. I'm lucky in that I actually have these conversations with people now, like you and these other guests. But I've been lucky all the years that I have been playing that I just don't let it beat me up for too long. And there's always going to be haters, as is popular to say. And
for sure,
it's just, and the reasons that they do it often. And most often have little or nothing to do with us. So.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what though? Like whenever I've learned this early on, that the more haters you have, the more that you've made it.
That's true.
In my eyes, because like, okay, look at our Canadian Justin Bieber. Like, he has so many fans, but he also has a lot of haters, and like you can't really get that unless you have a lot of fans. Unless you're really bad, but I'm hoping the whole thing is like once you get a hater. I remember I got this one tweet about this guy who randomly just like he tore me up on Twitter, and it was like the weirdest thing. I don't know how he discovered me or anything, but like I sent it to my friends who I had this conversation with. I'm like, guys, I got a hater, and they're like, you made it. It's so like you can look at it as a positive way. Like it affected me. I was like really bummed out about it for a couple of days but like you said, it has nothing. It doesn't have anything to do with us. It's more of what it has to do with them. Like, and I looked at his feed, and he's just hating on everybody. But like other Canadian celebrities, I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm probably like in the same status as these other Canadian celebrities he's hating on. So like you got to turn it around into something positive.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. Yeah, I need more haters. That'll make me feel more secure in my endeavors. I forgot to ask you this last time we spoke, but your involvement in the arts community and creating all these events as you do has given you other opportunities, which are playing at a lot of really cool venues. And I noted that there was one in particular that was among a couple of your favorites, Celebration Square.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what it is that's special for you at that venue?
Sure. The Celebration Square is quite new. I think it's been around for about a decade or even a little bit more than that. But it's located right in front of our city hall in Mississauga. And the reason why I just love this venue is because it's like it's this outdoor stage where a lot of events happen. especially in the summer, there's always different cultural events. Like they have a Filipino fest every year, and they also have like Ital Fest, and they've got a Rib Fest. They also do like movies out there, and like they do like weekly Zumba or whatever, or like yoga. But there's two stages to this place. So the Celebration Square, the main stage, is this beautiful area, and the people that run the sound there with the city of Mississauga and Culture Division are awesome. Like I've been gigging there since 2010, and like I'm friends with like half of them, and they always take care of me. So shout out to those guys. And then there's also another stage there called the amphitheater, which looks like a gladiator type stage, because the seating is cement, and like there's wooden seats, but like it looks like a staircase almost.
Mm-hmm.
So like gladiator style. And that's where I've done past Wonderfest, the past Wonder Woman event. And I host some open mics there with the Arts Council as well. But it's just like a really cool community. It's, like it's just a staple in our city now. Like that's where they played. It was called Jurassic Park West when the Raptors were in the finals. It's just like a big community hub.
Nice.
So it's just like a really cool place to perform and to be at.
It sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
On the note of producing events, and I'm assuming that you kind of have this down pat, but stuff still happens. But can you share like a worst moment or a disaster moment or a seeming disaster moment that you've had as someone who was producing an event? Perhaps you were performing at it or not, and the kind of things that seemed to go wrong, and how you overcame them, and how it turned out.
Sure. As you were asking a question, I'm like going through my filing cabinet of events I put out, and to see if there wasn't anything in particular. Like what happened with one event that I can think of is my partner Kat Leonard, who's the artistic director for Let's Make Good Productions. She and I were putting on a week-long Wonderfest event, and this was our first week-long endeavor. And we haven't done a week-long thing yet. We've now just done either monthly events or big events. Anyway, so this week-long event had an open mic scheduled Monday, an open mic / networking event. And Tuesday, Wednesday, we had workshops where it was, we had speakers come in that have used art to heal them, or like business for musicians, or just like kind of like really effective and helpful workshops. And then Thursday we had a Superman event. Friday we had a big Wonder Woman event. So Monday, our very first day, we for some reason I had assumed that I'd booked this venue. Like I think there was some talk with the venue booker, who we already had a good relationship with, because I was putting on events at this location like months and months prior to this one in particular. So I had a good relationship with the booker. But the Monday I was like, okay, we're going to have our networking event and open mic. And we put it on the posters, printed out the posters, said where it was going to be on this Monday, and we're promoting it weeks in advance. And let me tell you, that day of, I realized that I didn't confirm with the booker
Oh, no.
that we were going to use this venue. Luckily, because of the good relationship we have with him, and because we give them a lot of business with our events, the venue has 3 floors. So the top floor wasn't being used, and we scrambled, and he made sure like that venue would be open. I think someone else had booked it or something was going to happen. So he managed to make sure like we had that time slot, and like it was the beginning of our week-long event that like, wow, I'm already starting on this like really this high anxiety type level
turn of events, right?
Yeah, and it ended up it worked out because the space that we used was a lot more intimate for the networking, for the collaborating and open mic. It worked out that, and then it because it all worked out, the rest of the week was amazing. Like our last show was the Wonder Woman event, and it was an awesome turnout. We had like, and this is coming from doing shows where our audiences were very, very modest because we were starting out. But we pulled in a lot of people at this event, at the very last event. People like it was we brought in people that we didn't know, which is always a great thing as an artist. Like people seeing, you know, they saw it in the local newspaper, or they saw it on a poster on the street. We had some of those people come in. So yeah, that's one. And the lesson to that is just, you know, make sure you confirm. Make sure you get confirmation before you, as soon as I did that time.
Yes, I like the way you said that. I've heard somewhat similar stories from event organizers that these crazy things will happen like the day of or the week of, and it seems like everything's flying off the rails, and somehow it all works out. But I guess it's that that scramble and we got to make it happen thing that makes it possible. What have become your favorite methods or channels of for marketing and promoting your events?
Right now, it's weird because like I'll use Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, I don't use as often anymore, but those 2 avenues are what I use. I don't know if they're effective the way that I do it. I know there's like lessons online that you can learn how to use Facebook as like the what's it called, the ads, or like even Instagram. Like there's a lot of people teaching all that, like how to get more followers. You know, like you get those random Instagram messages like, we can get you 1,000 more followers if you know. But I think ultimately it's like doing it organically. There's a lot of things out there that can entice you to build your fan base. But what I'm learning through conversations with people that have been in the industry and that have been in the industry in the past to now, and reading interviews and articles, it's like it's building a fan base one fan at a time. And that might sound daunting because it might sound like a lot of work, but I think you can, like being a fan of other bands, like the way that I view other bands that I go see, that I will travel like across the border to go see. Like I've been their fans I'm going to be their fan for life. And it wasn't done by like selling me like something other than their music, or you know what I mean? Like,
you probably were attracted to their story, their sound, something about them as people. It makes sense, and I'm really happy to hear you talk about it in this way. That I like to refer to it as kind of old school marketing. That how important it is, and it's reminding you. You reminded me, and you do the same thing. Is one of the things I did when I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area and Dallas Fort Worth, to be able to play with a lot of great people, It felt like I could play whenever, with whomever, wherever I wanted, getting paid. And that was largely, a large part of that was just through, like, as you said, being fans of other bands, and even down to the local level, like going to see some of my peers, and networking and getting out there, and not just with musicians, but also with the venues, and, as you say, build a fan at a time. That really does work.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Speaking of bands that you cross borders for, we talked about it last time. We should bring it up again because when I read about it on your website, I believe, I was a little surprised, but you threw me down memory lane because there was a song, as I mentioned to you on Friday, that came back into my memories from long ago that I was playing with a cover band in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the band that you're so crazy about is Our Lady Peace.
Yes, that was like, I was kind of hoping we would go through that again. But yeah, they've been my favorite since like when their second album came out. I didn't know much about them when Naveed came out, but Our Lady Peace has always been my most favorite band. Like their Superman's Dead was the first song I learned on guitar.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I was so influenced by their music, and then it inspired me to write. Not only them, but like other Canadian greats like Alanis Morissette, Sam McLaughlin, Chantal Kreviazuk. But like there's a lot of similarity in the way that Rain Maida writes. Mm-hmm. That taught me. Like I would notice it. Like I've learned all their songs. Like I listen to their songs so much that if I were to hear it on the radio, like not even 10 seconds, not even 5 seconds, I'll know that it's their song.
Right.
But it's just the way that he wrote really influenced me and really inspired me to start writing. So I've, like I said, I traveled to Michigan to go see them. And I got a chance to meet Rain Maida when he was performing with Chantal Kreviazuk at a venue in Toronto. And that day when I knew I was going to see them, they do a duo called Moon versus Sun. And that day I had just Instagrammed a photo of him saying, like, this is my greatest influence. I'm going to go see him perform tonight. And when I met him, I don't know if it was because he saw that or maybe someone introduced me to him as a singer-songwriter, but I chatted with him like super quickly. I was very starstruck, and he's like, oh, you're a singer-songwriter? I'm like, yeah. And then I thanked him for doing what he did because it's influenced me to do what I do and to pursue pretty much what he did. And what's cool is that their latest album, he has a song called Ballad of a Poet, and his story is about going to this Toronto Awards music show, and he was there, and he was about to leave, but decided to stay and listen to the last band, and that last band was the Tragically Hip.
Oh wow! And
after seeing them, because he at this, like, his story is like, at this time he was thinking like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do this music thing, like, and then after seeing Gord Downie like rock out. And like, I'm getting goosebumps retelling you the story. That's what inspired him to go and keep doing what he did. And so when he said that story, I'm like, oh my God, that's you to me. But like, so that I thought it was just such a special story that he shares when they perform that song, Ballad of Poet. It's a really cool tune.
I will have to check it out. And I was only surprised, but it was kind of silly, really. Your sound to me, when I first read it, was like, well, that is really cool, but you don't sound anything like that.
Nope.
But yeah, but I wasn't thinking about it from a songwriting style or anything. It's just sort of your overall pop sound versus their overall, pop sound that they have. But anyway, yes, I think they're a great band, and you did inspire me to listen to lots of Our Lady Peace over the weekend. I think it's amazing they actually got the domain ourladypeace.com. I wonder if they had that from the beginning, or if they had to wait a while to get that one, because I would think there's a gazillion and one churches or something that would want to get that from them.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, I know that their website was ourladypeace.net for a while.
Yeah, so they just waited.
Or
and waited.
Our Lady Peace, yeah. And actually, it's funny that you say that, because I say that about my music. Like, I listen to a lot of 90s alternative rock, like not only Our Lady Peace, but like Moist, Finger 11, Holly McDonald, like they're hard rock bands. And then here I am singing my songs about my feelings with the piano and like very soft. And I think like I still want to have like a punk rock band. I will in the future, but like right now my voice suits what I'm doing right now, which I'm embracing very much and I love doing. But like I really do want to have a rock band in the future.
Well, maybe you also from the 90s, and I'm forgetting their name, but maybe when I describe them, you'll remember. But a female-fronted band that the voice of which went outside the norms of hard rock. She had the operatic voice. They were from like the Little Rock, Arkansas area. They were a little goth-looking. Man, I gotta remember the name of this band, and it'll come to me later, if not during our conversation, and we'll have to post it on the blog post or something for the episode. But she definitely did not have a traditional kind of hard rock voice. She had a very powerful voice.
Evanescence?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, cool. I just guess I don't know where they're from. But yeah, no, I agree. Like there's some singers that don't have that raw rock sound voice and it works. Mm-hmm. You just got to make it work, I think. Yeah,
it's true. It is true. Yeah, I'm glad we talked about it too, and Our Lady Peace. I'm glad that you like that. So you are among all these other things, performer, songwriter, event producer, activist in the art community, are a music teacher. Is that something you've always done throughout your career? Did it sort of start before you were performing, and do you still do it?
It started before I was performing my original music, and I do still teach. I actually was teaching at a Montessori school. I was teaching music, and it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of different ages, like 3-year-olds to I think 11, and a huge age range. And it taught me how to teach different personalities, a lot of different ways and understand how other kids learn. So now I teach privately. I teach piano, vocal. Those are my two main ones, and I also teach guitar and ukulele. I started teaching when I was doing theater. A lot of the theater stuff.
Yeah, and do you teach adults and youth these days?
Yeah, because there's some adults that have reached out saying like, "Oh, I always wanted to play piano," and with instruments, I believe that you can learn it at any age. It is obviously like easier to learn as a kid. I think it's easier to learn anything as a kid because we're sponges.
Yeah. Little brains are so pliable.
Yeah. And there's and I also, when I teach skating too, like it's easier to teach the younger ones skating because like we're fearless, like we're also closer to the ice. Whereas when we're adults,
right,
we're a
center
little bit.
of gravity's better.
Yeah, but it's like it really taught me that everybody has a different way of learning, which I think is important to know, especially if you're dealing with other people. Like a lot of people either learn visually or by like what you say and how you say it, and it's really, really developed my patience for sure.
Oh, I bet. What a wonderful thing to work on for all of us.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, we're coming close to the end of our time, but I wrote something down. I was kind of paraphrasing something that you said that I would love to end on. You can elaborate. Sure. You can elaborate on it, and hopefully I will paraphrase it in such a way that you remember what the heck we were talking about. But you said something to the effect of, "We can create our own work for our own music, create your own opportunities."
Yes. I know exactly what you were talking about. So I've learned over the years, and I didn't learn this until maybe a few years ago, but this is what I've been doing since the beginning, is that in order to predict our future, and anything we do is to create it. So, and it could be literal, like creating being creative, or, creating opportunities for yourself. That's how I viewed my music. Like, I gave myself opportunities to perform. If it went from putting on shows every few months to putting on shows every week, and giving other people opportunities. And in that, like, they know what I do. If they needed an artist like myself to be on a show, they'll put me into that. And it's just the activity that I've done to help others. I think it's benefited itself, where I also have opportunities to perform in different events. So this year I got to perform at Juno Fest, which is,
that's a big deal.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, the Junos is the Canadian Music Awards, and being involved in something with that title was really cool. Just because of how active I've been in the city, and it's networking. It's like, and also I have to give myself credit for my music. I like my music, and I hope others enjoy it as well. And the musicians I've got on board with me now, they're helping share that vision of where my music is, and like the live shows, and going back to, creating your opportunities. Not only are you creating work for yourself, but you're creating work for yourself in order to share and showcase your work. And I think a lot of artists are, you see people like, oh, nobody's buying my CD, or nobody's like paying for this, whatever. I'm like, well, then get yourself out there. If you aren't already, like, go to shows, go to support other people's shows, make friends and know who the booker is. Or if you are having a hard time getting on the bill for certain shows, book the venue and then put your own show. Like, figure out how to create those ways to have your art showcased. Like, put videos up on YouTube, share them with people. It's basically like putting yourself out there. And a lot of people, I think, they're waiting on someone else to do it. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of managers right now want to see the artist create it.
Yeah,
like a lot of people. Yeah. So,
well, that's great. I think it's wonderful advice. One of the things that I know I've seen musicians do is waiting for the local ecosystem, the local venue ecosystem to help them out, to give them a break. But as you had said, and why I wanted to bring it up, is it can be so helpful to just, create our own shows, create our own venues, create our own art, put our art out there, and of course, being part of what others are doing, as you said, huge.
Mm-hmm. Just like how you've created this amazing podcast, you've developed all these relationships with people around the world, which is awesome, and it's inspiring. And I'm trying to think, like, how can I make my TV show like national? Like, how can I interview other people outside of where I live? So it's giving me ideas. So,
well, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now. Hopefully, this will be helpful. But I just go searching for them, and I listen to when people like you mention others, and I take notes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I come back to people like you and even ask for, if you know anyone great that you think could be a good fit, you know, that would be super appreciated. But a lot of times it's just listening to what people like you tell me, the other people that you talk about. And, you know, when I troll one person's Facebook page, like if I'm, you know, be it Arlene's or some other artist that's been on the show often, I find they're connected to all these other people. And, and then I just hit them up and, you know, I get lucky sometimes.
Yeah, I can give you all my Mississauga friends. Like I would, like you could have a Mississauga section.
Yeah, well, I could have a Mississauga month. That would be great. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm so proud of my friends around me, and that's another reason why I put on events is because I used to gig so much. I'm like, I can't see all my friends, so I'm just going to put them on my show so I can see them. Like I'm so proud of the people around me, and I just want all of us to just bask in the successes that are ahead of us. So.
That's a good point, or you know, a common dilemma that artists face when they're gigging all the time. They miss these cool shows. So what a great way to pull them all together. Arlene, thank you again for joining me for another hour, and I'm looking forward to this episode being all put together and sharing it with others.
Great, thank you very much.
That is a wrap. Another fine episode. I feel so lucky to have made it happen when we did. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. She's great. Hey, if you're a regular listener of the podcast, you know that I'm a fan of Bandzoogle. Let me tell you why. Bandzoogle powers websites for thousands of musicians around the world, from garage bands to Grammy winners. They have an easy-to-use system to help you get your site up fast. Lots of mobile-friendly templates to help you customize and design your site. It's built for musicians by musicians. Here are some of the features that Bandzoogle has. They have a merch and download store to sell music and merch commission-free right on your website. A tour calendar to promote your shows and sell tickets commission-free. Mailing list tools to grow your fan list and send professional-looking emails and newsletters. Integrations to pull in content from all your socials. And live support from a musician-friendly team 7 days a week. Plans start at just $8.29 a month, but you can go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial. You can use the promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO, to get 15% off the first year of any subscription. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO, to build your artist website today. Look for links to just about everything talked about in this episode in the episode show notes at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. Thanks again so much for listening. With much gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell.